Hey, so in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about the dashboard section of BuyBotPro, which is basically a compilation of a bunch of make or break factors that you always need to look at before you go any further with your analysis, before you go any further with the item. In fact, a bunch of these will literally stop you from going any further with the item if you see them. So it's really important to pay attention to every single time you analyze. If you're analyzing without these factors, then you're basically analyzing blind. And this can potentially lead to risks of your Amazon account getting suspended and other nasty things that we just don't want to happen. So this is why it's really important to pay attention to this section and what this dashboard is trying to tell you. Now, first and foremost, trying to find out all this stuff without something like BuyBotPro is going to be really hard. And not to mention very timely as well. Like trying to find out if something has an IP issue, for example, like unless you asked around or maybe asked the company and waited for some kind of response, then it's going to be really hard to find out without something like this that will literally indicate it for you. So this dashboard is basically going to summarize whether or not you can sell something. So you've got a summary at the top, yes, no. And then you have a bunch of factors here. Now, the first three are determined by your Amazon Seller Central account. So when you initially log into BuyBotPro, you need to press login here where it says hazmat eligible dangerous goods, and the result right here, it won't actually have those indicators. It will literally just have a login link. So you need to tap that link, log into your Amazon Seller Central account so it links up, and then it will be able to tell you these factors. Obviously, the rest of BuyBotPro works separate from the Seller Central account. That's the only bit of BuyBotPro that requires linking to your Seller Central account. Okay, so that's for hazmat eligibility dangerous goods. Now, obviously, there's no way to know these things without linking to your Seller Central account, which is why that needs to be the case. So for things like if you are, if it is a hazardous item, for example, or if it's considered a dangerous good, and if you're part of the dangerous goods program, obviously it's going to factor that into account here. Therefore, if it was something that was considered a dangerous good, but Amazon can still do it because you're part of that program, then it will show up as green. Obviously, it'll also be green if it's not actually a dangerous good. In this case, it's a little Funko Pop, and that's not going to be dangerous at all, nor will it be hazardous. But you might find things are hazardous if it's, say, like a deodorant or some kind of like healthcare product that's made up of all manner of different chemicals. I even know that certain shoe polishes or shoe creams are considered hazardous. There's lots of things that are considered hazardous. I think it will mostly be sort of like sharp, dangerous things like that, or things that are like made up of numerous kinds of chemicals and stuff that's highly flammable. So things like that. So this will basically indicate to you if an item is considered to be hazardous or a dangerous good, and if so, it will give an indicator. I'm going to explain what the indicators mean in just a moment. And then we have eligibility. So that's if Amazon are allowing you to sell the product. Don't get confused by eligibility and IP, because they are two different things, both of which are some of the most important aspects to look at whenever you look at this dashboard. So eligibility, that's if Amazon are letting you sell the product. And you'll find that when you get started with Amazon, you will be gated in quite a bit. And I say quite a bit, I mean quite a bit. And that's not to put you off at all. That's basically because Amazon can't just let anyone onto their platform selling whatever, because that will just be chaos. If loads of people are coming on selling this, and this, and they're trying to like get away with counterfeit goods and things like that, like it just makes it harder. So this ungating process is basically Amazon's way of saying, look, you need to build your rapport with us. Once that's built, you'll be engaged in a lot more. And so ungating is absolutely nothing to be afraid of. It's a very easy process. It usually consists of submitting an invoice to Amazon that meets all of Amazon's requirements. So a recent invoice, I think anywhere within the last 180 days will do. The invoice has to show, and you need to purchase at least 10 plus of that particular product. And the address on the invoice needs to match the one in your Seller Central account. It's as easy as that. Obviously, getting an actual invoice, I would say that it's easiest to do that from a wholesaler initially, even if you're doing OA or RA, so online arbitrage or retail arbitrage. Getting an invoice from a wholesaler initially, just to get yourself unlocked for that brand or that category or whatever it might be, I would say that personally, that's easier because wholesalers deal with invoices regularly. Whereas if it's with your standard high street retailer, whether that's online or in store, you'll need to ask a manager to help you with that if it's in store, or a customer help desk. You need to ask them if they can do you an invoice. Or if it's online, it's probably best checking with the support system, whether it's a live chat on the phone or email or something like that. It's probably best checking with them if they can actually do you an invoice to the kind of specifications that you need for your business. I don't think you have to go too deep with the fact that you're a reseller. It's completely up to you, but I would just say I really need an invoice with these aspects on it for my business. It's quite like an important part of my business. So please, would you be able to help me generate an invoice, or would you be able to do that if I was to buy? And then, of course, when you do buy, you need to make sure that you are chasing that up and making sure that they do you an invoice. Obviously, from the get-go, as I say, from a wholesale perspective, a lot of wholesalers will just send you one, like off their own back. They might have a place where you download it, or if you do need to request one, they're usually a bit more forthcoming with that because it's part of like what they do. It's their bread and butter. Whereas with retailers, obviously they deal more with receipts, and you can't submit a receipt to Amazon. You do need an invoice. So it's something that you need to check before you actually go ahead and do that. So getting ungated, it's completely up to you how you go about doing that. But yeah, some things you'll be ungated for just by requesting approval. It's really important that you do test the request approval on Amazon Seller Central, because you don't actually know until you basically press that. But the great thing about BuyBotPro is that it has an auto ungate functionality. So basically it will knock at Amazon's door for you. So it's going to try this request approval. It might come back as yes, you're all good to sell. It might come back as no, you aren't eligible to sell. And if it's no, you're not eligible to sell, you can still get around that by getting ungated. So if I show you another product, we'll come back to this example product as well. If I tap auto ungate, BuyBotPro is basically knock on the door saying, am I eligible to sell? And it will be returned as yes or no. So let's see what it says. So red, nope, we need to submit more to Amazon. So sometimes it will just turn green because it doesn't actually require anything more. And you might find this happen more and more as you get ungated for various brands and categories. Basically, as you build up that rapport with Amazon, you'll just be naturally ungated for other brands and categories. It's just a gradual process. And once you put in the work initially, you'll find that that gets a bit easier a bit later down the line. So in this case, it wants me to submit a bit more. So if I tap that link, right, it takes me through to Amazon where it gives me the details of what it is I need to submit. So I just need to follow that and submit that to Amazon. Back to this, obviously, as I say, hazmat dangerous goods, meltable. So this is one to keep an eye on depending on the product. So if the product is basically meltable, if heat's going to affect it. You won't find that with things like this, but with things like candles or certain foodstuffs, things like that. In the winter months, it might show up as all good, not meltable. In the summer months when it is hotter, those things might show up as meltable. So it's something to check on dependent on like the season and the year. So keep an eye on that, as I say, depending on the product. IP, that stands for intellectual property. Now this is basically an indicator as to if the brand is actually allowing the reselling of the product by third-party resellers like you and me. If they say no, you cannot sell that product under any circumstances. Not on Amazon and not anywhere else either. So don't try it, because if you do that on Amazon, then your account will probably get suspended. IP claims can be filed against you, which in best case scenario, it means that you are removed from that listing, which is a shame if you've bought a load of that stock, because then you're kind of like stuck with it. You might have to sort of like resell it as potentially used or something like that on eBay perhaps, or on Facebook Marketplace, or maybe find a way to return it to the store if you still can, if you've got obviously your proof of purchase and so forth. That's what you might have to do in that case. Worst case scenario, your account gets suspended. The suspension can last however long. In some cases it's permanent if you're a repeat offender, so be very, 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 very careful. And I would say if you can see there is an IP issue, just not to do it. Keep your account safe. Buy box analysis, that's if Amazon have been known to share the buy box. Oversize, so if you're liable for any oversize charges, you will find that there might be some additional charges on larger items. Variations, this isn't really a make or break factor, so to speak. It's more just an indicator of if there are variations of this product, and if so, it's just a thing that will tell you should probably check out that you're on the correct variation of the product, and B, you might want to have a look at some of the other variations using the variations function in BuyBotPro. So this isn't really a make or break factor, it's more just a prompt, if you will. So everything is indicated by a color. So it works the same as a traffic light system. So green is positive news, all good, all clear. Orange is not quite sure. So it's something that you could potentially work around, or it's something that needs further due diligence. So basically it will require further research from yourself. So for example, if it was orange on IP radar, and ironically, it can show up as orange because Amazon don't even know themselves. So if it was orange on IP radar, say, it might be that you actually do have to have a chat with some other sellers, join a Facebook group or a Discord group or something like that, have a chat with other sellers to see if they are aware of any problems with said brand. It might be that you have to actually reach out to the brand themselves, ping them an email and say, hi, I run X business and I'm looking to resell your products. I was just wondering, if basically that's permitted, or if it's not, like, can it be sold on by third-party resellers? And they'll basically get back to you with an answer. So that's what the case would be if it showed up as orange. It just requires further research. And if it shows up as red, it's usually negative news, bad stuff, don't do it, basically, or that factor, it's not really the outcome that you would want. So for example, in this case, buy box analysis, there is little or no evidence of Amazon sharing the buy box in the last 90 days. Now that sucks big time, because it means that if we were to join this listing, we are completely reliant basically on someone choosing us individually from the list of sellers to buy from. And in most cases, actually, people will just click add to basket or buy now, or even if they do go on the list of individual sellers and they see a few that are cheaper price than the others, they'll probably choose those ones. So this is quite an important thing to factor in. If we go on to this product right here, obviously L'Oreal, IP issues, yes, like it's red, don't go ahead with that. But then some other things as well, obviously not eligible to sell. It is considered hazardous. So please be aware, this is a hazmat ACE, and you will likely have to do a separate shipment to a hazmat approved fulfillment center via a verified courier. So there's a bunch of extra hoops you have to jump through for things like hazmat and dangerous goods if it is considered that way. Buy box analysis, again, little to no evidence of the buy box being shared. So it's basically L'Oreal on this listing, and they are not letting anyone else resell their stuff, which is too right because it's their very own brand. But obviously there's lots of other brands that are happy for you to resell. There's loads of brands out there that will let you do that. This is just one of those exceptional cases. Now, another thing I want to point out as well is that BuyBotPro actually has the largest IP monitored database. So basically we have a sister company called Getting Suspended, and they become aware of clients that have dealings with problematic brands because they will probably face like a suspension issue or something like that, and they help those sellers get their accounts reinstated where possible. And in fact, thousands of sellers have had their accounts reinstated by Getting Suspended through the help that they provide. So any problematic brands they're aware of, they share that with BuyBotPro. We've obviously got our own sort of like database where if we become aware ourselves of any problematic brands, we'll add that to the database. So overall, it makes for the biggest database of constantly monitored brands of any deal analysis tool out there. So that's another reason why BuyBotPro is a really good one to have by your side. Hopefully this helps your understanding of these make or break factors. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.